Lazarus syndrome is a medical term named after Lazarus of Bethany, whom Jesus raised from the dead 4 days after he died. Now, according to medical science, Lazarus syndrome is a spontaneous return to life after failed efforts to resuscitate the dead person. So that means when someone is declared clinically dead, dead, they have no pulse, no heartbeat, they tried to do CPR, didn't work, the body's getting stiff and cold and hard, it's already turned blue, everybody's crying, they cover the body with the sheet, they lift it in a gurney, they place the body in a freezer at the morgue, and then after a while, the person starts banging on the freezer door because they're suddenly alive. Okay, that's known in the medical field as Lazarus syndrome. And as advanced as medical technology is, they don't know what causes Lazarus syndrome. Researchers have no idea. Now, they have some theories, like maybe the dead people drank a lot of Red Bull prior to their deaths, finally kicks in a little bit later after they die. But that theory has been shot down multiple times, mostly by Red Bull, who denies that their drink causes spontaneous cardiopulmonary resuscitation because for legal reasons they don't want that associated with their brand, because instead of Red Bull, they'd be known as Zombie Bull. They don't want to be the zombie drink. So since 1982, there have been 65 documented cases of people coming back from the dead. And the top 4 cases of Lazarus syndrome are: number 4, Velma Thomas, age 59, of Nitro, West Virginia. In 2008, she had a heart attack at home. She was rushed to the hospital. ABC News reports she was brain dead for 17 hours. So they're like, they just let's take her off life support. They did it. She died. And her son, Tim, said her skin had already started hardening and her hands and toes were curling up. So at the hospital, they need to ask you what you want to do with the body. So her son's trying to make funeral arrangements. And then his mother wakes up. Number 3, Walter Williams, 78 years old, from Mississippi. In 2014, Walter was pronounced dead, and he woke up inside of a body bag at the morgue. And he had died the day before. So Eddie, his nephew, said, I stood there and watched them put him in a body bag and zipped it up. His body goes to the funeral home, and the next day he's kicking inside of the body bag. He's alive, and he's pissed. And the funeral director, Ryan Porter, has the shock of his life. Nope, not going to embalm him. Just say, sorry, we're going to refund your deposit. Do you need me to call you an Uber or get you some pants? Number 2, George Rodenaya, 20 years old, a neuropathologist in Georgia, Russia. So in 1976, the KGB was assigned to assassinate him because he was making all these valuable scientific discoveries about the brain, and then he wanted to flee to the United States. So to stop him from leaving the country, a KGB agent ran him over with a car. Now, the assignment was just to ding him a little, injure him so he doesn't leave the country. But they accidentally killed him. Oops. Okay, so he's dead, right? So for 3 days, his body was in a freezer at the morgue. And on the 3rd day, the doctors take his body out of the freezer and they start the autopsy. So as soon as they put the knife in his chest, he wakes up screaming. The doctors are screaming. He's screaming. Everybody's screaming. The Russian newspaper, this is 1976, covers the whole incident. And then there's a documentary on YouTube if you want to watch it. So George has to prove that he was dead for 3 days because the doctors are like, no, you were sleeping, maybe you were in a coma, it was a suspended animation or something. But no, his spirit was floating outside of his dead body, hanging around his family. So he floated around and he saw his wife picking out a grave for him at the cemetery. Now, in her head, she was making a list, and she was considering several men who could potentially be her next husband. So in her head, she had this little checklist of all their qualities and qualifications. She was sort of scoring them because I guess, highest score her would be her final pick. So when George comes back from the dead, he tells her her list. And she didn't write any of it down because it was all in her head. So she was so freaked out, she didn't talk to him for a whole year, and then she slept in a separate bedroom.